The bank, in order to achieve Africa's SDGs and also Africa Agenda 2063, capital increase, general capital increase is very important. And where the bank now stands is basically we have just initiated the discussion. And today the governors have fully endorsed the importance of increasing general capital. And we have agreed that the details will be further discussed and submitted in Busan so that it will be finalized. But in principle, the governors has already approved the general capital increase. But the general capital increase is not only from the government or from member states only, but also from private sectors. We have discussed on how we tap from the private sector as well. I think the bank has been changing the last 1 year in terms of really focusing and also basically making it very clear direction and focusing on the key sectors that are very important for SDG acceleration. So the focus is very important, and also the working and the consultation with African countries is very important aspect of that. But at the same time, working with the countries to mobilize more domestic resources, international resources, blending of resources from different sources are very important aspects. So first, my expectation from Busan on industrial acceleration is basically this is a way for African countries. Without industrial development, Africa cannot fully employ its young population. Source of employment, decent work would be inclusive and sustainable development industrialization in Africa. Therefore, the African Development Bank will work with other partners in Busan so that the need for industrial development would be addressed through financing both technically and financially. So Busan would be a crucial element in mobilizing external resources, not only from the African Development Bank, but also from other development banks. So it is a key decision element for Africa to lay the foundation in terms of financing its industrial development. So we are expecting really a leap forward in industrial development in Africa. I think there are, in terms of industrial development, African countries are at different stages. Also, we would be learning from experience of some other countries who are advancing and some are who are starting. And through this experience sharing and the discussion, I think especially resource mobilization, targeting, and also tailored approach would be laid out into that discussion. So we thought there will be more, my expectation is more resources for industrial development as the outcome of Busan. Ethiopia has really made a lot in terms of accelerating or transforming its economy to the industrial development. And we have also laid a 5-year plan for industrial development to become a manufacturing hub of Africa in the next 10 years. And based on this vision and the mission, we have laid down a detailed plan, and we have already started implementing the industrial development. We have first identified the key areas that are comparative advantage for Ethiopia, such as leather, such as textile, such as food processing, where Ethiopia has a huge and a large endowments in providing natural raw materials for this industrial development. That's number one. Number two, we have created or identified special economic zones, which we call of industrial parks. We have developed so far about 10 industrial parks, about 3 of them already completed. Already investors are in, and we have started production and also exports in this process. That's one area. The second area is agro-industrial processes. And those agro-industrial parks, we are now planning to also implement about 17 parks all over the country. Now we have already started with 4 pilots, agro-industrial parks. Already the construction has started. Government has contributed all resource, but we have mobilized huge resources from the private sector. Public-private partnership is one of the modalities we are using in expanding industrial development in Africa. So we managed to attract huge FDI in implementing in industrial development. Some private sectors have fully owning the industrial parks and also implementing those industrial parks. So a huge really industrial development activities going on in Ethiopia, which in the near future it will yield results very soon. The most important African needs is employment creation. Job creation is a critical element. There is an estimate with ADB that after some time about 50% of African youth would be unemployed if we don't really take action now. So job creation, decent job creation is a very important aspect. But how do we do that? As I said, also industrial development is the way forward, because agriculture no more employ all African population. So we must transfer our economy from agriculture to industrial development. That's number one activity. The second most important is infrastructure. Infrastructure is a very essential a backbone of economy. Without infrastructure, it is impossible for any country to transform. When we say infrastructure, we are talking about social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. When you say social infrastructure, it's human development. You need to develop and make ready your population very healthy through health and also through WASH program, but also very educated, trainable, which would be suitable for the industrial development that you may require. That's also, then the economic infrastructure is a very important aspect. Road, energy, rail, and as ICT are the key elements and accelerators of economic growth. If we do these things, then really we would be in a good shape in a nutshell. However, when we talk of industrialization, we are not neglecting agriculture. Transforming agriculture is very important. Silo industrialization no more useful. Agriculture and the industrial development need to be supplementing each other, or they need to be connected backward and forward linkage. If we do in comprehensive manner, then Africa will be achieving its agenda of 2063. When we say high five, there are other needs as well. However, we identified this as a most critical element for Africa to really create some accelerated economic growth, social development, and so on. So focusing is very important. You cannot disperse all your efforts or resources with all priorities. So you need to, because resource is limited. Therefore, you need to do first on the focused areas, in the 5 areas. If you do the 5 areas, the other will follow. So, but all the 5 areas are fully relevant for African countries. And this morning, when we discussed in the East African constituency, all have been supporting these 5 high areas, which are the most priorities. They are not the only priorities, but these are the most priorities that we need to first invest our resources, both internal and external resources. We are mobilizing, and then we move to other priorities as well. So those are the most critical elements for Africa's growth.